Hey, Eddie. How are you?
I'm doing fine, Bobby. How are you, sir?
You know, I'm real good. It's a real treat to talk to you over on my side of things because I get to talk to you sometimes on your side of things in your domain, but it's a real pleasure to have you over here.
Well, it's a real pleasure to be with you. I was thinking just the same thing. You know, I'm used to seeing you out at the Opry frequently as a performer, and of course your presence there has been heightened recently with your involvement with Circle Television too. So you always do a great job whenever you've been around, and it's always been a treat to visit with you, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you here today.
Well, I got a couple questions. You know, first of all, I would think that today would be an emotional day because today, it's Wednesday, we're recording this. Is this the last day of the show? Yes,
this will be the last day of my employment with Ryman Hospitality Properties, which of course owns WSM Radio and the Grand Ole Opry.
How you feeling today going into that last show?
Well, it's sort of a mixed bag, if you will. Very reflective, very thankful. You know, so many experiences having been with the company and as an announcer with the Opry for 25 years. But 24 years ago this month, I started hosting the evening shift at WSM, and that's a long run. So we've had a lot of magical experiences over the years. But on the other hand, I'm looking forward with great optimism to what the future holds. My wife, Debbie, and I are very much looking forward to getting out and doing a lot of things we've wanted to do and go do some traveling. And we've got some dreams that we want to live and things we want to share, and things she's like to do individually, some things I'd like to do individually. We'll do them together, of course. But we're just very much looking forward to this and have a little more time to do it. And on top of that, while we're still in relatively good health to do so.
You know, for folks that are listening and don't understand, like the amount of time that Eddie has been doing this night show, that is such a level of success to stay on air for over 20 years. Like, as somebody who's doing it and trying and grinding it out every day, like, I tip my hat to you. That is something that very, very few people in the whole world have ever done, and especially at your level. Well,
thank you, Bobby, for saying that. One thing I'm proud of is in the almost 95-year history of WSM, there's never been a longer tenured host in the evening shift, and in the history of Nashville radio overall, there was only one other personality, a man named John Richborg, who played rhythm and blues music on WLAC late at night in the evenings. He was on, I believe, for 27 years before he retired back in 1972. So I'll play second fiddle to John R. anytime. He was great for what he did, for what I gathered.
You know, back at your first radio job, 1983, you made $20 per show. Now, when you first started, was it on carts or records? How were you guys doing the music then?
We played music exclusively from records. My first radio job was at WYII in Williamsport, Maryland, 55 miles from where I lived. And it was near Hagerstown, but I lived in Gaithersburg, Maryland. That was my hometown. But we played on records, and that was it. You ever these 45s?
Yeah, elbow one of those things and it goes, and then you're like, oh my goodness, and you got to run back to it. Did that ever happen?
No, I never got caught with my records down there, but I did at other places.
That seems scary because you nudge one of those things, the whole radio station goes crumbling down.
Yeah, they're very delicate, that's for sure.
You played fiddle back in the day with the Johnson Mountain Boys. Now, did you ever step into the circle and perform?
At the Opry, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We were blessed to guest on the Opry several times, and that was a great thrill. That was a dream that we had, that, you know, that one day we might become members of the Opry, and I had a dream as a kid the first time I came there on a summer vacation after between 11th and 12th grade. I said, one day I'm going to be on that stage, and I was years later in the 80s as a fiddle player, but I never dreamed that, you know, 17 years later, I think it was 17 years to the weekend, I was becoming an Opry announcer. So that was it was a dream come true to get to be able to do all that.
Eddie, when did this voice happen? Because I hear you talking, I thought, man, if I could have had this voice, I wouldn't have had to be as dippy as I am. If I'd have just had the perfect voice, like Eddie here. Where were you, 11, 12? When did this thing finally set in to where you're like, I can do this now?
Well, I always had a deeper voice, and it wasn't something that I nurtured or went to broadcasting school to try to work on to make it better. If I had, it probably would have been a lot better, but I give all the credit to God. I mean, he gave me the talents that I have, Bobby. And as to when it came in, I don't know. I guess like most, adolescents, your voice changes when you're 12 years old, 12, 13 years old, 14 maybe. But I always had a deep voice back, as far as I could remember. I don't have anything of me as a kid, talking on it. But it's just what God wanted me to have.
Man, I wish he'd wanted me to have that kind of voice. Instead, I sound like this. I sound like the Peter Brady episode when he goes through puberty on the Brady Bunch. That's my whole life right there. I saw.
Yeah, you got the listeners and you got the fans, and you're the most powerful broadcaster in country music. So it's a thrill to be able to chat with you. There's room for all of us, Bobby, in what we do.
Well, I saw Dirks write something really nice. Dirk's a good friend of mine, and Dirks loves you. Did you get a chance to see what Dirks had written about you on Instagram and Twitter and all that?
No, forget me. I'm a 78 RPM kind of guy in an iPod world, so I don't see all that stuff. They quit making those in '57, by the way, 78. So, but I haven't seen it, but I would like to. Dirks has been very kind to me.
Yeah, I mean, he wrote a whole lot, and he said, I'll just read you a piece of it here. He said, when I was hanging out at Station Inn and really starting to dig deeper into the music, two of my biggest teachers were George Jones and Eddie Stubbs. Who else goes back and replays just the steel guitar solo of the song that he spun on vinyl to explain to the listener the importance of that musician's contribution to the success and greatness of the song? No one. So, and he wrote a lot more too, but I thought, a guy like Dirks, who's just an A-plus guy, aside from being a great artist, his words were pretty touching, and I know you and Dirks have been pretty close over the years.
Well, that's really flattering, and we have. He started listening to me when he came to Nashville from out in Arizona. He was a college student at Vanderbilt University, and, it was always neat to have him around. He was just one of these guys that was just a sponge and just wanted to soak up everything he possibly could.
Who was it, Eddie, that you would get nervous to talk to? Because, here we are, 2020, and we hear about all the legends now, but who was it when they'd walk in the room, you'd be like, oh boy, here we go. This is about to be something.
I got that way a little bit with Earl Scruggs early on because he was such a childhood hero of mine. And way back, I was nervous being around Ray Price. That was before I ever came to Nashville. That was back in the early 90s when I was working in radio in Washington at WAMU. And getting to be in the presence of these people, for the first time and meet them, I was definitely nervous, as I guess anybody would be, at that point in time.
With you being able to bring on so many people on that Opry stage, especially for the first time they get to play the Opry stage, when you look back, who was it that maybe you had seen or caught part of their performance, but the crowd just absolutely went bonkers for way early in their career, and you were able to go, man, this is about to be something?
Josh Turner stands out very strong in my mind. I was there the night that he made his debut at the Ryman Auditorium. He was a brand new artist, didn't have a record out or anything at that point. And Pete Fisher, the manager of the Opry at that time, put him on the show, and he came out and sang Long Black Train, and that voice was so unique and so special. And, he just had a very, what's the word I'm looking for? He just had a presence about him that with confidence, he was who he was. And you could tell that this guy wasn't just a great singer with a deep voice and a great song, but you could tell this guy was an artist. And there's a big difference between a singer and an artist. Not every performer is an artist, but I could sense that. And he got a standing ovation that night. He was halfway up the stairs to his dressing room, and they had to go get him after he'd done his song. He didn't realize that he was being called back.
That's awesome. I have two more questions for you because, I could spend 3 hours here. I feel like we should do a whole Ken Burns series on you, Eddie, to be honest with you. But I got two more questions for you. Number one is, over the years, any cool memorabilia from the Opry that someone maybe had given you or an artist would leave behind, or are you keeping anything as a memento from the Opry?
I tell you, Bobby, that would be a hard question to answer because I've always been a student of the music and a collector and a fan, and I've got a lot of memorabilia that I've bought, and I've gotten things that people have given me over the years. Lots of special things that, pictures, songbooks, things like that. So it would be hard to pinpoint to say what is my most treasured artifact of Opry memorabilia. I do have one item that's tied to the Opry, so to speak, and that's a 78 record on Columbia by Uncle Jimmy Thompson, who is the man who was the first person to play on WSM. And he filled an hour's worth of airtime playing old-time fiddle music because somebody didn't show up, and that's what led to the birth of the Grand Ole Opry. So having one of Uncle Jimmy Thompson's 78s, you know, it wasn't his personal copy, but those records are very scarce. To have one of those is something that's very meaningful.
Wow. Hey guys, it's Bobby Bones. Welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, subscribe and then go check it out. A lot of artists, a lot of songwriters, a lot of music. Welcome to the Bobby Cash channel.